I want to bring in my midterm primary brain trust. Julia Manchester is a national reporter for The Hill. Johanna Maska is the CEO of the Global Situation Room, as well as a former Obama administration official and a Democratic strategist. And also with us is Chris Stirewalt, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Chris, you've been watching the numbers really closely. I just want to come to you really quickly to get a quick update. I thought that was a little weird. I want to make sure my numbers aren't off. We got McCormick at 32, Dr. Oz at 30, and Kathy Barnette at 23. But there was a big jump in the percentage that was reporting in from 39 to 54%. Those numbers didn't move at all. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, this has been a remarkably consistent margin. It's not a big margin for McCormick tonight, but it's been remarkably consistent. And what you've seen as you look at where the counties are coming in and how it's going, the battleground is between Barnette and Oz, and it's in the collar counties, the suburban and ex-urban counties outside of Philadelphia, and then up into the Carbon County and those places, Joe Biden's hometown of Scranton and all of that stuff. So that's where they've been fighting it out. Meanwhile, McCormick's been racking up the vote in Western Pennsylvania. He's a native of Washington County outside of Pittsburgh, and has been socking the vote away out there and doing very well. And what we're seeing is that if the vote ends up this way, if tonight ends up this way, we will say that it was Barnette that cost Oz the chance to be the Republican nominee for Senate in Pennsylvania.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that we are clear. We had a little banner on the bottom of the screen saying Dr. Oz was squeaking by. He's not. He's squeaking, and he's trying to squeak up to par with David McCormick, and there are 2 points separating them. David McCormick's in the lead. So, okay, Julia, the most interesting headline of all of these states and all of these races tonight is Cawthorn has now lost. He was the Trump appointee in North Carolina, and Oz is losing in Pennsylvania. I asked Kelly, our reporter, what did Oz say when he heard about Cawthorn, and whatever he said, we don't know, but the supporters there don't seem to think it's a problem, is it?
No, and I think a lot of Republicans are probably breathing a sigh of relief tonight, Ashleigh, knowing that Cawthorn is safely out of the way at this point. Look, for a Senate race to be commenting on a House race, I get that there's some distance between the two. However, if we looked at Republicans in general, yes, absolutely breathing a sigh of relief. I think you saw over the past couple of weeks and months, Madison Cawthorn really giving House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy a headache. You had incidences of him coming into an airport with a loaded firearm, for example, or these leaked photos of him in women's lingerie, or suggestive videos that came out of him. It was just story after story. And I think Republicans would rather at this point, especially in the House, be focusing on inflation, crime, and the border. But instead, those of us roaming the Capitol were asking Kevin McCarthy about Madison Cawthorn. So, it's not only Kevin McCarthy, though. We saw that Senator Thom Tillis in North Carolina very much backed Cawthorn's challenger. We saw that other establishment politicians really got behind his challenger. So definitely a sigh of relief for the Republican establishment tonight, but technically a loss for President Trump, who did endorse Cawthorn.
So I'm going to get Johanna to weigh in on another race that's interesting. It's just been called Pennsylvania Republicans likely to nominate a super right-wing candidate named Doug Mastriano. He's a state senator. He's a proponent of the big lie. I think that one's been called. Let me just double check. Can you get me some clearance on whether it's been called? I'm pretty sure that, yep, it has been called. So, Johanna, that's yet again candidates who support the big lie. That's the choice. Far right in these primaries.
Yeah, no, he's someone who served our country's, but he has not served our country's values. He's someone who stood against a free and fair election. His campaign tried to block the media from his events. So I'm super troubled about this. And I actually worry tonight is one of those nights where you have so many people who doubt election results who are kind of close. I mean, I think Cawthorn was closer than any of us thought he should be, especially because he's someone who is supposed to make the laws and he can't seem to follow them. But I'm worried that some of these candidates are going to start calling into question their own results. And I've been waiting for that moment. And I wonder if we aren't going to start seeing that in some of these races. So that's my big worry. And I am just breathing a sigh of relief on the Democratic side that so far we seem to have some normal and solid candidates who are married and have families, who actually live in the state and have roots. And so it'll make for an interesting general election, but I don't think this election is over tonight.
So speaking of election, that requires electability, right, Chris? And when you have a candidate like, State Senator Doug Mastriano, who's so far right and espouses these views that maybe not everybody in Pennsylvania does, a lot of Republicans are worried about the electability of the far right candidates. And I'm sure Democrats as well. We just don't have any super famous big races tonight that will depict this, this narrative. But they're worried about far left candidates in these primaries. The primary system is fun to watch just because it's nuts. And that's not healthy, Chris.
Well, I guess everybody has their own ideas of fun. I thought I was the only one, but look, if this race holds, if the Senate race holds in Pennsylvania as it is, then the Pennsylvania Republicans will have nominated for Senate a candidate that is sort of in the Glenn Youngkin model, the Virginia governor, of a guy who comes out of finance, puts on a little MAGA trappings, but is really old guard Republican, mutton dressed as lamb, right? And he will be if McCormick is the nominee, would be a very strong choice for Republicans because the Democrats have gone for a riskier choice, right? They've taken a progressive, tattooed, interesting, colorful character in Fetterman, but they'd have to like that choice. But then you look up to the top of the ballot and you see that with Mastriano, the Republicans are taking a huge chance, right? This guy is very radical. He is very extreme. And the Democrats have a very boring, what any Democratic strategist would say is a pleasantly boring Democratic nominee for governor. And that can have consequences for the Senate race. So if this holds, the Republicans may really have to worry about Mastriano and how he runs as governor and what that does to the Senate race.
And I always thought that midterms were about the president, but it seems they are more about the last president. Julia Manchester, Johanna Maska, and Chris Starwell, thank you, all three of you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.